Hey guys, it's Soup, and today we are going to be talking about sim racing gloves. Sim racing gloves. Why do people use sim racing gloves? A lot of people will tell you it's because we don't want to damage our steering wheels because we spend too much money on our steering wheels, right? Which we do, but it's also to look cool, right? And I think you get to a point where you start using sim racing gloves and then you're kind of uncomfortable when you don't use them. I do have one leather wrap steering wheel that I do not like to use gloves on, but all my other wheels, gloves. So I'm going to go from the gloves that I like the least to the gloves I like the most, and hopefully you'll be able to pick something up that will help you make better financial decisions than I have, because I have a whole mess of sim racing gloves. We're going to start with these gloves right here, these Solo Queen gloves. You can get these on Amazon for $22.99. They're a cheap pair of sim racing gloves. What do I like about these gloves? Well, the good thing is that they're cheap. That's really all it boils down to. You can get them in several different colors, which is cool. There are lots of things that I don't like about these gloves, though. First of all, the strap is on the inside of the wrist, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. Second, they're kind of bulky, they're stiff, they're uncomfortable. They have the internal stitching in them, which makes them even more bulky. Another thing that's really bad about these is they're not good for typing. So a lot of us have our keyboard either off to the side on the sim rig or have our keyboard sitting over on the side. I have mine sitting on the side and I put it on my lap. And these just aren't good for typing. They're too bulky. They're very cheap. If you want to take a step up in sim racing gloves, the next brand that you might consider would be Moradness. And I know if you're in the sim racing community, if you've looked at anything sim racing online, you've probably heard of Moradness gloves. So I'll go over first the shorts and what I like and what I don't like about the shorts. So first off, these gloves are very comfortable. The external stitching is very comfy. So the difference being that on these gloves, you can see that the stitching is on the inside. Whereas on the Moradness gloves, you can see that the stitching is actually on the outside of the glove, which makes them very comfortable to wear. They have very good fit, and they actually feel a lot better than the Solo Queen glove. They do have touchscreen capabilities, but I will be honest, I think the touchscreen capability is kind of lacking in these. Although I can see with my latest phone, I got a new phone recently, that it's actually much better than it used to be. So what do I not like about the Moradness gloves? They're tough to type with the external stitching. They also, the Velcro strap, it's not convenient to take them on and off if you want to take them on and off. I've had several times where I have these things Velcroed on and I just try to take them off real quickly, not even thinking about it. You have to unvelcro them to take them off. But they are better than the Solo Queen, no doubt about it. Additionally, the grips on these are just kind of useless. Like, it's more decorative than actual grippiness, I should say. And I wouldn't have known that unless I had got a pair of gloves that grip really, really, really well. So that's a little spoiler alert for upcoming gloves. The longs, pretty much all the same advantages and disadvantages, or good and bad things about them, except for with the longs, they're just more convenient to get it on and off, I think. The grip on some of these have worn off a little bit, but that has happened with every single sim racing glove that I've ever owned. I actually have one more pair of Moradness gloves. I have the smoke version, and these ones I actually got customized, so I spent a extra $20 on these. But by far the worst thing about the Moradness gloves is that they're just, for what you're getting, they're outrageously expensive. So a pair of these gloves on their own are going to cost you $69. But the longs are actually more expensive. They're $72 for a pair of these. Outrageously expensive for a pair of sim racing gloves, I think, of this quality. And I'm not saying that they're not made well. They seem like they are made well. I've had zero issues with my Moradness gloves. I just feel like it's not worth the price hike over the alternatives that I'm going to share later. The last thing that I think is bad about the Moradness gloves, or something that I don't like, kind of a negative about it, is, and I want to be real careful when I say this, their customer service has been lacking in the past. And I'm not talking about me specifically. I don't want to say that I've had a bad experience with Moradness. There are a few that have had a very poor customer experience with them when they get delivered something that they felt was defective. All I can say is that the responses that I saw to a situation like that were less than professional, in my opinion. So I chose at that point to no longer use Moradness gloves because of the things that I saw. So I didn't want to be promoting the brand. So I will say that they're good quality gloves. They're good for sim racing. They're extremely overpriced, and their customer service may be lacking. You may experience bad customer service with them. It's just my opinion. You are free to have your own. Moving on to another brand, and what happens to be my favorite brand for sim racing gloves would be -273 karting glove. These are made for go-karting. So the thing I like the most about the -273 gloves is that they're not too expensive. This pair of gloves was $40. So not as cheap as the Solo Queens, but not as expensive as the Moradness gloves. And the -273, I think they have the best fit out of any sim racing glove I've ever put on. I tend to like my gloves being a little bit tighter, and the medium fits my hands perfectly, and it's actually pretty tight. Additionally, the grip on the -273 gloves is amazing. So I didn't know what a good sticky grip was for a steering wheel until I used the -273 gloves. We're not even going to talk about touchscreen capability. I'm just going to edit all that crap out because apparently I can use all my gloves with my iPhone 16, and I don't know if that's the case with all phones. The downside is the grips do wear off as you use these gloves. So you can see there used to be like a yellow coating on there, the same as on the fingers. You can see them on my pointer finger. That grip is starting to come off. So they do wear out as you use them, but they're not as expensive as Moradness gloves or some other sim racing gloves out there. So I feel like it's worth it. For only $40, you're getting a fantastic pair of gloves that you could use for karting too, if you're into go-karting, and you can use them for sim racing. Now, the downside to them is they have the external stitching, so they're a little tough to type in. And they may actually just be overkill for sim racing. They're a little thick. They may be a little hot for people who run hot while sim racing. So they may be just a little bit overkill, but I have to say, I think out of all my gloves, these are my favorite pair of gloves. However, they are not the gloves that I use the most for sim racing. And that award goes to the same brand, -273, except for they make a sim racing glove. The reason that I love these sim racing gloves is, first of all, they're comfortable. They're not too hot. They're not overkill for sim racing. They fit perfectly. The grip is very substantial on these. And additionally, they have a short version, but there's no Velcro, and the fit is still great around the cuff of the glove. I will say they have internal stitching, but the stitching is not that bulky, especially not as bulky as the Solo Queens, the cheap Amazon gloves. So it's really easy to type in these. The price on these is $35, which isn't gonna break the bank. They're easy to take off and get on because they have this little pull tab on the inside of the wrist, so you can very conveniently put them on and pull the pull tab. So the only downside to these gloves, in my opinion, to the -273 sim racing gloves, is that they have internal stitching. If they made a nice, sleek fitting external stitching version of these, there would be no doubt in my mind that I would never race with another sim racing glove other than these. But unfortunately, they do have internal stitching. So there's not a perfect option out there, at least for me, but these come pretty close to it. The only thing that will tick my wife off more than me getting another pair of sim racing gloves would be buying another monitor and not being home when it gets delivered, so she has to bring it inside. I'm sure there are other brands out there that I haven't tried. Please feel free, if you have a glove that you're in love with for sim racing, throw it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. I'd actually like to try it out as well. And don't forget to do all the YouTube stuff for me. I was gonna say something else. Thanks for watching. That sounded stupid.